Hostile territory.
Hi everyone, welcome to another video from Hostile Territory. In this video, we'll be talking about how to change your behavior in a hostile and toxic workplace. In our previous video, which I would recommend for you to watch it, we talked about how to recognize a toxic workplace and not make a mistake and lose perhaps a good job in some sort of misjudgment. But let's say now it's definitely a toxic workplace, but you have to be there for some reason. The topic of this video is how to align your behavior with that and how to change your behavior. Again, I'll be speaking from experience. I hope that some people won't take this in the wrong way, and I'm talking about myself as a Superman while everyone else is, bad and they're villains and everything else. But, I was raised and I aligned to those sort of core values. When I do something, I like to do it properly. I like to do it honestly. I like to do it to the best of my knowledge and to the best of my possibilities. And at the end of the day, I like the company to have the best interest in all of my work. That was how I was raised, how I did all of my jobs, whatever I did in life, and that's how I do it today. But if you're like that, and if you start working in a toxic or bad workplace, soon you will come to the conclusion that you'll have to change something. Why is that? And what happened to me? Again, I made a video specifically on that topic where I explain all the history and where my sad credentials come from. I urge you to watch it. I'll leave a link in the card in the corner or in the description. What you'll soon notice is that lots of people tend to use that. They will use your characteristics against you. What I did is I did essentially a bunch of work for other people. They used me, okay, and they used my expertise in certain places to their own advantage. This is probably the first thing you will have to change in a toxic workplace. What you'll have to do is sort of pull the handbrake and lower the rev count and change your stance towards working very differently. Trust me, if I had the opportunity, had a time machine to go back to the company some 10 years in the past, and if I had the opportunity, then perhaps I would change exactly that. In what way? Never do as much as you can. Just do what you have to. Sad to say, but remember this, a toxic and hostile workplace is not a normal workplace. You're working in radical conditions, in very bad conditions. People want to use you. People can't stand the sight of you, but you have to be there, okay? So always have that in mind as a big flashing neon light. So if you get any kind of guilt trip regarding that, if you left something unfinished, of course, don't damage the company, don't get yourself in any kind of problem. You'll see that there is a certain way to do this to get through all of it, but you won't hurt or damage anyone, and above all, you'll be able to save yourself. You can perhaps call it slacking, but more about that in some future video. Slacking is a discipline that should be taught in schools. It is something that certain people, like judo or jiu-jitsu, they get it to a level of sheer perfection. But more about that in another video. So again, you're gonna have to change how you do work. Again, you don't have to slack, don't make any kind of damage to the company, just don't go 100%, go 70% or whatever is enough to finish that job. Next, if you have good behavior, good manners, pardon my English, if you have good manners, you're gonna have to get rid of that also. What you can do is sort of, lower the level of your manners. People who are toxic and hostile often treat good manners as a sign of that they can advance on you. That they can take advantage of. It's like you have a big police light on the top of your head which says you can do whatever you want with me. So have a sort of stance that gives off that nobody can mess with you. Now, the next thing I would like to talk about is don't be too helpful to people. Eliminate that also. Let people come to you to ask for help. Of course, this doesn't apply to any kind of emergency situation. Asking for help. If you're going to ask for help, be very careful about how you do that. Know that lots of times people will take advantage of that also, especially if they don't like you as is the case in a toxic workplace. They will remember what you asked for. Okay, you may be, although this is in the best interest of the company, what you asked for, maybe they have some kind of a proposal or something like that. They may even write that down, they will remember it, and in a certain occasion may use that against you. An example would be you're asking for some kind of help and they say, well, how is it possible you don't know that in that line of work? And they, make a record of that, and later they can tell the bosses, managers, everything else, that guy really doesn't know how to do that. That's preposterous. And when the gossip goes out, it echoes a lot. So take care of that also. Now, the next thing I would like to mention is avoid socializing with those kinds of people. Even if it's, a celebration of some sort, try to get out of there as soon as possible. Now, this may make you some sort of hermit, people say this and that, but trust me, when socializing among toxic and people who are hostile to you, you'll only make a big mistake, okay? If you're really skillful, you can go in that kind of mingling and in those kinds of acquaintances, you can get a lot of information from it and so on, because those toxic people talk about what they talk about you badly, they talk about other people also, so you can use that also to your advantage. I personally avoided all of that because I wasn't interested, and it did me a lot of good. It may hurt you because, you'll see on a lot of celebrations or a lot of occasions, people act good to each other, they're friends. But, if you go under the first layer of that, you'll see that what they mean to you, they mean to most of the people in the company. For the last tip that I would like to mention to you, take this tip with a big grain of salt. Do not speak to the management unless you're 100% certain that it will have some kind of effect. Now, in toxic and hostile workplaces, you will come certainly at some point of time, especially if you were a long time there like I was, you will come to a point where you can't stand it anymore, or it will obstruct work like it was in my case. What crossed my mind was to make some sort of report and go and tell the management what was wrong. And from this stance, when years have passed, all that I can say is that I would have made a big mistake. Always make sure that the management and, the boss, your toxic boss or your toxic coworkers are not aligned with each other, that they're not relatives, that they're not good friends, and everything else. You have to know how the whole network works before you do that, because lots of times you can make a report, you can do that because of sheer goodwill towards the company. If someone is doing some sort of bad things that are financially bad, for instance, or if they're doing something bad that will cost the company later, of course it would be good for you to make a report and tell the higher management. But if the management is a friend with your boss that is doing that, if the boss is a friend with a coworker and everything else, you're the one who's going to pay the price, okay? The manager will tell the boss and the boss will be on your back in no time. This doesn't have to be the case. Lots of companies have this solved in a pretty good manner. So pay attention and think twice or three times before you report or tell anybody about this. Now, there are other things. These are some things that if you take into consideration, you should be able to get through this toxic workplace and hostile environment much easier. Again, the company you're working now, if it's toxic and hostile, that is a bad working place. Again, that means that you're not working in a normal workplace. If you're working in a normal workplace, you wouldn't be watching this. So in order to save yourself, to save your mental and physical health, you'll have to do this. I must be clear about this. You'll have to transform your being into this. Okay, if you have some of these characteristics, even better, you won't have a hard time doing this. But if you were like me, it's going to be a radical and hard transformation, but you have to do it in order to save yourself. So that's it for this time. I hope these videos help. Watch our other videos that should help you get through tough times and a toxic working environment. Thank you for watching. I sincerely hope these videos help, and thanks for your time.